Okay, so it's time for the first part of You Pick My Poison March. Now, for those of you who didn't vote, the movies are as follows for this month. Doom, the one you're currently watching. Ready to Rumble, the one that will be coming out next week. And then we have They Live. Thank you for picking They Live. Followed by The Rock, again, in Game Plan. Now, I'm doing these to be released on Mondays, if I can keep the schedule. So there'll also be a wild card at the very end. I will pick one of the ones that actually didn't get selected, and I'll review that one. As you can probably tell, I'm a slightly older guy, so I'll make sure I'm 30. So I actually do remember when computer games were a lot more graphically inclined than what you saw on Nintendo or Atari. That's why when the computer game Doom got ported over to both the Genesis and the Super Nintendo, they really weren't very good quality. Even the 32X wasn't as good as it should have been. Now, I loved Doom growing up. It was probably by far one of the most violent games that came out, and almost everyone who had a computer owned Doom. And, people nowadays who play games like Halo, or even Unreal Tournament, or even Quake, where you have the ability to actually, jump, that was huge. You never had that in Doom. With Doom, you would see a ledge that you're like, I could totally climb onto that ledge. But then you could backtrack around. So you could find steps to run up, to find that ledge that you needed to get to, that you probably nowadays could have just went, oh, spacebar, jump, landed on an ore, teleportational disc, or, geometric, environmental, graviton bomb throw, or whatever you need to do to get there. So, I, like most people, when I saw the trailer for Doom, and they showed it in first-person perspective, thought, this is going to be awesome. Even just for that, first-person perspective, all you kind of see is, the gun, and you run into things, shoot things, or, punch things, or even in some cases, get a chainsaw. Now, it might seem kind of weird, because I normally tend to not enjoy shaky cam movies. There's a difference. From the first-person perspective in Doom, you never had the shakiness. You always had, sequential movement, and it made a lot more sense. And then I found out they were going to throw The Rock in it, and I was like, okay, it's The Rock in Doom. So this falls under two categories. One, video game movie. Two, movie starring a wrestler. One that I don't like. And of course, much like Scorpion King, Rock is the bad guy. For the most part, this movie comes off like a really poor remake of Aliens, with there being almost no aliens. This is undeniably a dull movie until roughly the last 5 minutes, where they finally actually do the first-person perspective to fight the bizarre mutated version of The Rock. Because The Rock took a serum which made him the villain, and a guy from Lord of the Rings, I entirely forget his name, he was also in the Chronicles of Riddick movie. He takes a different potion which makes him like a super soldier. And that's what then changes the movie from a really stupid, poorly acted, generic space marine movie into Doom. And I'll be honest, if they would have done more sequences in the first-person shooter standpoint, this would at least be a passable movie, because you at least could mark out for that. But beyond those few fleeting sequences, out of love, what's this? It needed more BFG. It needed the chainsaw. It needed the weird, it needed the brown guys with the spikes who shot fireballs from their fists. It needed the weird, one-eye beholder-looking thing. There's so many things that should have been thrown into this movie. If you're watching Resident Evil threw in bits and pieces of creatures that you actually saw in the video game. And it actually made sense. This one, someone just took a really great idea, a really good video game, and decided to go, you know what, I want to slap that name onto generic Space Marine movie. Will people enjoy it? We'll throw The Rock in there too. He needs something to do. And this movie is pathetically bad. It fails as a wrestler movie. and it fails as a video game based movie. Not as bad as Super Mario Brothers, which, if people want me to, I'll actually review that one. But the only redeeming quality of this whole movie is that last couple of minutes, where it's done the first person shooter style. And being someone who's a fan of the game, and then seeing a movie that entirely misses the point of it. Yeah, sure, you were a generic Space Marine, but you know what? You're a generic Space Marine that shot lots of things, that was doing a mission, that for the life of me I can't recall what it was, but it didn't matter. So it was fun, it was entertaining, and it was mind-blowing. Transfer that into a movie where you try to throw in a plot that makes almost no sense, that's an entire waste of time, just to get people to go, alright, cool, now we're playing that first-person perspective, and now it's finally Doom. That'd almost be like if they were if you want to do a Halo movie, and instead of having them actually fight the aliens, it was just them, getting guns and getting gear. And then the last 5 minutes of the movie, they actually do what you do in the game. So, Doom, in a nutshell, is just that. Watch at your own peril. It is a movie that is better left to act like it never ever actually existed. Up next, the second wrestler movie that actually led to a match. This one actually led to David Arquette becoming the World Heavyweight Champion. Ready to Rumble next Monday.